Hello, welcome to the Mostly Yoga podcast. My name is Aaron. This is my humble platform. Ta-da! Thanks for being here. Thanks for listening. Hope everyone is doing well. If you haven't already seen the trailer, you know that Malvina is back. We did a podcast before, episode 22. You can go and check that out. Now we're on episode 32, which is 10 episodes later, so, very appropriate. We recorded this episode at the little office area at the Raffles Studio. It's above the women's toilet. Maybe some people don't know that place exists. Oops. Anyway, the place isn't soundproof or anything. It's just like any other place that I record my podcast. There's gonna be birds chirping. There's gonna be cars honking. It's near the road. The usual. Nothing you wouldn't have already gotten used to if you've heard this podcast before. If you're new to the podcast, thank you for listening. Welcome. But before we get into all that, this episode is brought to you by BC FLOWSTATE. Rediscover the way you move, feel, and perform through the use of natural and authentic movements that can help you build strength, regain your mobility, and of course reconnect yourself to your physical body. For content on mobility, movement, and other feats of strength, check out his Instagram at BC_FlowState, just to check out all his movement stuff, his training stuff, and to be aware of all the upcoming dates that he has for his mobility workshops and Gymnastica Natural workshops as well, if you want to call it that. Classes. Bronson, I haven't seen you in a while. I hope you're doing well. Let's meet up soon. I always see Clarissa. Hello, Clarissa. Thanks for always buying me coffee and cookies. But I always see Clarissa in class. I haven't seen you in a while. So every time I meet her, she'll tell me about you, and we'll always catch up soon. Next up is something green, something spicy, something local. It's of course red dot chili peppers. A Singapore-based chili making person, which is my friend Steph, who makes this unique homemade cilantro chili. Whoa, what's that noise? There's also a new flavor, what do you call that? Is it the ketchup one? Ketchup? The Malay, the black color thing. I don't know. Just go to the Instagram. If you are a fan of all things spicy and green and good, and you want to spice up your life with some of this unique blend of chili, so order yourself a bottle, 2 or 3. Just go to her IG or Facebook page at red.chilipeppers. All the links will be in the description below. You can all check it out. And another link that you will also be able to find in below is the link to my coffee page. So again, the podcast is free to listen to. You can listen to it whenever you want. It's 100% free. But if you would like to donate and show some support, you can go to coffee.com/mostlyyoga, ko-fi.com/mostlyyoga, and just buy me a cup of coffee. If you decide to donate, thanks you very much. And if you don't, it's fine as well. Happy to keep doing this. Happy to just, whatever, it's a hobby. So yeah, follow me on Instagram, follow me on Spotify, or whatever else that you can follow me on. So all the links will be underneath. Okay, so back to my guest, which is Malvina. Malvina, of course, is the Laobangyang of Hom Yoga, where I teach at now. And again, we've done a podcast before, episode 22. You can go check that out. The link is also in the description below. A little backstory about how this episode came about was, I see her at the studio every week. We chit-chat. They have their little meetings on Friday morning. So I'm always there playing chess with Edmund. If you've seen me there, the lunchtime crew. So we catch up, we chit-chat, and then, she always she's growing, right? Malvina is slowly just growing, and she's learning more things, and we talk, and then the things that we share casually, we just always thought, oh, well, this could be on a podcast again. We should do another episode. And then so I texted her one of the days, like, hey, I'm free on Monday. You want to do it? And here we are. Also another thing to take note of was that during this time, I wasn't in a very good space. We'll just leave it at that. I share a little bit about that in this episode. So it was nice enough for Malvina to help me hold space for that as well. And I guess, like, listening to her talk, listening to her share her story at the beginning of the podcast, I could already feel myself, like, I was like, tears were welding in my eyes, or I don't know why I'm so fucking emotional these few days. But she was just sharing about the birth of her son, Bay, and talking about holding the baby's hand, holding the baby's hand, taking it across the bridge lah, this kind of thing. I was like, I'm so sensitive, fuck. But I don't even know whether she noticed. Well, I don't know what I'm rambling about, and I also ended up rambling a lot when I was sharing from my personal space in the middle of the podcast. So I don't know. So just that's gonna happen. I don't know what to say anymore. I'm just gonna. That's it lah. Let's just go into it. Without further ado, here is Malvina. Enjoy.
Are you gonna have it one out, one in, or what?
I'll see my mood. Maybe I'll have one in, one out. I don't know. Sometimes when my glasses get pinched on my ears, then I'll put one in, one out.
Okay.
Okay. Is it too far? Try being closer.
Then it's too far from you.
I can lean in.
I'll just speak a little louder then.
The last time you were quite audible as well.
Okay,
because you can project. I can't project. Okay.
Yes, you can. Yes, you can.
Hello, Malvina. Welcome back to this poddy, this humble platform of mine. We are here today for a special reason. We're going to be recording the best episode of this podcast ever. Here it is. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the best...
The best podcast
This is the best
in
episode
the world.
in the... yeah, this is first. Okay. The days leading up to this podcast when we were texting, and it was a very impromptu kind of thing where we were just chatting at the sofa. How are you? Blah, blah. And we're just catching up. And then we realized that we have a lot of things to catch up on. We have a lot of things to talk about. And then we just casually said, like, we should do another podcast because there's stuff that there has been new things that you've learned that you want to share. And I was like, ooh, let's share it to the world, right? On this thing. And then today I'm off. I had nothing to do. I was like, hey, do you want to do this? And he said, yes. And then here we are. And we are both in a different space. And we are in a open space as well. And we're sitting here in the Raffles studio office. I mean, I don't think many people know that there's this hidden spot up here. So we're here, we're doing our thing. Blair has kindly blessed this place and cleansed this place for us. And there's a lot of good vibes around, and we're just here. We're present. I'm here with you, you're here with me. Let's hear the story about Bay.
Wow. Bay. So I think the last time we spoke, I was pregnant with him, probably in my second trimester. Yeah, and I was feeling a lot of just stuff that came up in the second and third trimester of pregnancy about his birth. I think there was this fear of, do I have to die again? Like, I don't want to die again because I died with Navy and I rebirthed after, and it was wonderful. But then I'm like, but the process of dying again really freaked me out. And luckily I have such an amazing birth support team. I had, Red, who's my midwife, Amber, who is Red's birth assistant, but also a close friend and a teacher here at the studio. And obviously Blair, who was with me all along the way. And I voiced this concern. It's like, okay, I'm afraid of dying again. How much more do I have to do this? I don't want to do it again. I'm scared. And that was like the honest thing that came up for me. And you know what? When I got to the birth, it was almost like all the thoughts all along the way prepared me for it. I had to be in that state of like looking at it, witnessing it, observing it, and not running away from it, because I have a tendency to just be like, to compartmentalize emotions, just like, cut, I'm here and I'm great, but I'm not really honoring what's really happening. So it was really good that I did that. I did that honest introspection. And so when I got to it, I was aware of the fact that I felt those feelings. I had all my crystals. I had amber, resin burning. I had my birth support team, and it was at home. And the day came, and there was no doubt in me. In fact, Blair took, on Instagram, he saw this video of a jaguar who latched onto this crocodile and just with his really strong legs climbed up this soil, and he had caught the crocodile and he was going to eat the crocodile, and he was just like this powerful creature. And I felt like that jaguar during my birth. I was like super present, and I worked with my breath the whole way through, just inhaling and exhaling with an Om all the way through the laboring process. And there was not one time within me where I felt like I cannot do this. And it was the first time I've ever felt that way, ever. So anyway, I got to the end, and he came out just so beautifully, and it was just like the most magical thing. And it was like, I felt like there was this, it's like in my mind, I knew there was that power within me. Like I felt like I am a powerful woman, but I never believed it. But during the birth, it was like I touched my power and I just ran away with it. And I was that jaguar. And when he came out, I just felt this complete sense of completion, of like, I've completed my birthing journey. So with Monroe, it was experiencing trauma, and learning how to heal from it was Navy. And then Bay's birth was power. It's just one word, power. And I touched it, and it was like, yes, I've completed this cycle of discovering, like my births are indicative of my own discovery of my inner power, really. So it's really hard to put this to words, but it's quite wonderful. It's quite wonderful. And because of that, Bay and I have a huge connection, a connection of stillness and presence that I felt all the way through the birthing process. Yes, beautiful.
What you've been, I mean, this is your third birth, so you've been through it before, but what makes each of them different? Is that a silly question to ask?
No, it's a great question.
Because I would think that it's the same sensations. Maybe if anything, you would be more equipped to handle whatever you needed to do. Say by the third birth, you sort of know what to do, you know what to expect. But then you still said that you were afraid for the third one. Why? Like, wouldn't you have already have the experience from the first and the second one to be able to anticipate the third one? So what made the third one so scary?
You know what? Like on a complete physiological level, I knew what my body was going to go through. I knew I was going to go through early labor, active labor, transition, birth. So I had that understanding from my first and second birth. So definitely that helped me with my third birth, knowing that I don't have to think about these things anymore because I'm aware of these things that's going to happen to my body. But I think every birth is so different. You're bringing in a different soul. Then each soul has its own characteristics, its own personality, and so with each birth, it's a complete surrender to becoming a channel for these beings to come through. So as much as you think I can control the birth and have this perfect birth or whatever you want to call it, it doesn't happen all the time like that. And the only perfect birth is the one that you are able to let go to and surrender to and allow the soul to guide the mother in the birthing process. So I would say, like, when I look at Monroe, his birth was, he likes things structured. He likes things, and has a bit of an engineering mind. And so when he came out, I ended up having an epidural with him. And that's what he wanted. His soul wanted that. So I went there with him. But then I needed to heal. And then Navy, he's very independent. He's very self-assured. He's his own entity. He runs his own race. And so when he came out, it was like he just kind of popped out at the end. Like it was this reflex that he just came. And I was a little bit shocked, like, oh my gosh, okay, he's here. And that's who he is now. And with Bay, him and I worked together. Like we were holding hands during the birth, his spirit and my spirit holding hands, and we did it together. And now I have this very close, visceral connection with him that is quite beautiful. So it's interesting. So when you're saying like why the fears and why, you've already done this before, but it's just so different each time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's interesting that you're able to describe the births you're able to describe the births in a way that has, like, each birth is different, and the way you described it somehow showed their personality. Even like their personality as people is represented through the way that they were born, which is very interesting. It's very strange, like, to hear this. I've never heard of it being described this way before. And I've seen Navy, and he is his own, he does what he wants. He's sort of just there. And for him to be birthed, like when you gave birth to him, and he sort of just came out on his own time, like I'm out, this is it, deal with it.
That was him. Yeah.
Yeah. And his birth was that way, and he is this way. And then, I see the connection to it. I was like, oh, that's interesting. Have you spoken to other mothers, and have they shared similar experiences about this? Is this a thing? Like,
most definitely. I feel like the medical system just doesn't acknowledge what the spiritual journey of birthing. So we're all left, mothers are left unaware to the potential of themselves and the potential of their beings that they're bringing through. And that's the sadness of it all. So it's good that we're talking about it here so we can bring awareness to it, and also just, tell mothers that we're like, our bodies are meant to do this. We're meant to be birthing. We're meant to open up. We're capable. Like, our bodies are strong enough to do everything that it's meant to do in the birthing process. I think it's just a disconnection now that we are experiencing.
I mean, my understanding of birth is a very surface level. Like, it's just reproduction. You know, sperm touches the egg and then the baby comes out. I never think of it in such a detailed way of like the personality of the birth, the way the baby comes out and how it reflects on their individuality. And I feel like that seems to open up more questions for me also, like, what does this mean? Like, what is this about? What is this thing that only mothers can tune into? This instinct or this motherly instinct that they have, the bond that they have with the children, and is it, you know, is it universal, or have we lost connection to that? I feel like I need to ask my mom, I need to ask, you know, friends that I know,
Yes.
whether like, hey, do you feel this when you, and does it make any sense? Okay.
It's also like preconception and conception and pregnancy. There's a book called Spirit Babies, and it's written by this guy called Walter McKitchen. And I love referring to this book because he is a psychic, and he can see the soul of babies connected to their parents. And they're usually shrouded in a blue light. And the spirit babies usually either with the mother or the father. And so, and the spirit of this baby follows the parents around until they're ready to birth the baby. And it's so wild if you think about it, because you think, oh well, it's just a physiological process, and the sperm meets the egg and da da da. But it's so much more than that.
Yeah, it's so much more complex, because I think I've heard something like this being shared to me before about how, yeah, even though you would think that you were the one that birthed your child, it's also the child that chose who the mother is to be birthed into. So then of all the children that you could have had, you know, your son, your daughter, that is the one that he or she chose you as well to be the mother. So then there is that circle, that connection of everything makes sense, everything fits, the glove fits. And you know, people don't talk about that, people don't understand that, people don't think about it in that way.
Actually, my sister-in-law and my brother, they were experiencing some difficulties in conception, and it wasn't anything that drastic. It was just that they were wanting a child, and they could feel the presence of the child, but they weren't conceiving. And I gave them the book to read, and then they started doing the mantras and inviting the soul, the spirit, to come into the world with them, and talking to the spirit and chanting. And you know, they're not yogis, and they were chanting in their house, and within a month, 2 months, their baby arrived. And we just simply have to be made aware that there's this whole other world that is not just what we see in this reality, this dimension, that we are just part of this greater cosmos, that we're all cosmic beings, and these babies that we bring through are, we're already in that world with them, and we just have to be made aware of that.
Does this have to so what about intuition, and how does this connect? Like, say, the intuition of the mother, is there any connection with the birth of the child?
The intuition of the mother, is there any connection to the birth of the child? What do you mean by that?
Like, say, or maybe not intuition is the word, like the sensing of it. Like, say you put out an intention, the mantra, you chant the mantra or whatever, and then you seek you're inviting, right? And then once you put that out there and it comes to you, is it some kind of like something being manipulated in this other world because you set the intention? So like, say, let's call it intention instead.
Yeah.
So you set an intention, you put it out there, and then it comes to you, but it was also meant for you because you said that your your sister-in-law was feeling the presence of a child, but then they weren't able to conceive. So then something was missing, and it was maybe the child was trying to find its way but couldn't find it, and then like, oh wait, I hear my mother and father chanting this thing. Ah, there it is. Okay, I'll go there. So is there some link? I don't even know what I'm asking.
No, it's a good question. Now, I think I understand what you're trying to say or ask here. So Walter McKitchen, in his book, I'm going to reference him because he's just he's got really good examples in there. Some souls, they might feel scared. They might feel like baby souls. They might feel scared. They might feel there's something that is holding them back from coming through. He gave an example of, I think it was, I cannot remember the exact details, but it was a soul that was crossing a bridge, but was so scared it was a vision, right? So the soul was crossing the bridge, but he got to the middle of the bridge and then he couldn't keep going. And he said to the mother, he said, when you are giving birth, you're going to get to a point during the birth where you will need to go and get your baby. You need to cross that bridge and meet this baby in the middle of the bridge, hold his hands, cuddle him, hug him, tell him that he's going to be okay, she's going to be okay, and then you're going to have to bring the baby with you. So he talks about this like some babies, they come right through your, central channels from your crown chakra. The soul comes through and they just come out. And that felt to me like Navy's birth. Some births, the mother has to leave their bodies. The soul has to leave the body, go and pick the babies up, and then both come down together. And that felt like Bay's birth to me. And so they're all very different, and it depends on the soul of the baby and what their needs are. Yeah. So does that answer?
Yeah. I mean, I guess what all the questions that I'm trying to ask is to find out more about this connection of beyond the physiology of birth, and I want to find out more about this connection, and you bring the baby across, but I don't know what to ask. And
I love the honesty.
I don't know what I'm trying to ask because so this is a new concept for me, right? There's personalities with birth. There's different, there's different personalities, and then as you go deeper, you understand like, okay, there's the soul baby, and then there's the mother choosing the soul, the mother choosing the child choosing the mother. It's all this. We'll call it a different plane, right? All this is happening on a different plane. So then the questions that I'm interested to know is whether the mother can sense these things through intuition of like, okay, no, my baby's at the bridge, I need to go get him. Like, is this a natural thing? Is this something that you need to tap into? Do you need to have someone to be able to sense it and let you know, like say like that guy, that the vision guy? So and is this even a thing that all mothers, on some level, on some instinctual level, feel or resonate with?
I think we all have it. We all have this intuitive nature within us. It's just a matter of whether we are able to connect to it.
Is this the source of the female intuition, you think? Which is the motherly intuition of being able to sense your child? It's,
most definitely. Because we're so powerful. Like mothers, women are so powerful. It's only through the generations and through society that we've been
oppressed,
but if you look at what we can do, it's beyond the scope of reality.
Yeah, beyond the scope of reality. That is the word to describe all this. And I'm asking questions in the sense of logic and not in the sense of.
You got to go to your right brain.
Yeah.
Because we're all sitting here in our left brain. We're all trying to go linear.
I'm trying to make sense of all this logically,
but
rationally.
Sometimes things don't know. Yeah. They don't have to make sense. They just have. It is just what it is.
Yeah. It is just what it is. Yes. Maybe this is all already within us. It was all, we had it all along. We were able to tap into it long ago, but then now, because of whatever, the world is changing, and we're no longer able to tap into that part of the brain, and we forget through years of, just like how animals, when they're born, they know that, a monkey, I need to learn how to climb the tree. I'm the tiger, I need to learn how to attack or to pounce, or how come, like, dogs, they pee on stuff. It's all passed down from their instincts, right? It's in their blood. They know primal, yes. They know once they're born, I need to do this. Humans seem to have lost that ability, and they learn it in external ways rather than learning it through internal ways. I'm born, I don't know anything, so then it's up to my parents to teach me, it's up to society to teach me, and to school to educate me. But then we conform to all the social norms, we conform, this is wrong, that is bad, do this to get this, don't do that or you'll go to jail, blah blah blah. And we never get the chance to really understand ourselves, and we lose ourselves in that process, because we're just part of society, which is a whole other fucking topic.
But like, to expand on the soul coming through and why they're so nervous sometimes and so scared, is that when they're in spirit world or spirit land or whatever you want to call it, consciousness or this other realm, plane, it's so beautiful there. Everything is one. It's just, they're light beings. And they have to come into this world that is full of tension, is full of stuff that they have to deal with. But the soul has chosen to come in because they believe that they can do something. They can grow, they can evolve in themselves, they can fulfill something in that particular lifetime that may shift the world slightly, whatever. And that's why sometimes souls, the baby souls, find it really hard to come through, because they don't, or to cross that bridge, because they're so happy where they are. So they need a lot of love, loving connection from their parents to say, it's okay, we've got you, we're here, we love you, we're gonna take care of you, we're gonna be here for you, we're gonna support you and guide you, and you'll be fine. And so that is also, that's also part of the thing. But it's also not just the birthing, it's the postpartum years as well, where it's so important to, the first 2 weeks when Bay was born, he didn't open his eyes. And I thought, wow, he's still in spirit world. He's not wanting to be here. It's opposite to Navy. When Navy came through, eyes wide open, I'm here. He's got it all worked out in the spirit world. By the time he got here, he was good to go.
Yeah.
But Bay was different. He needed some time to integrate into this realm.
Right.
And now he's great. Now he's completely integrated. His eyes are wide open. He's interacting with us. He's here in the earthly realm. He's aware of it. But it took a lot of skin to skin and telling him that we love him and we're here, we support you. For the first few weeks of his life, to reassure him, his soul, that we're here, he's okay, he's loved. So it's quite a profound thing, and it's so beautiful to watch.
All this was just through you witnessed all this, you came to understand all this through your own fruition. Oh, it's so interesting.
Yeah, but I think also many mothers would have their own stories as well. I've also heard many stories through many other mothers, so
I'm sure.
It just isn't really spoken about.
Yeah, I feel like this is the first I've heard of something like this, and now I'm thinking of all the mothers here, and I wonder what that story is, the birth story, the personality of how the physical birth, how it came to be.
If you think about it, when the baby comes out, everyone in the family is like, oh, baby, so cute. And then they forget about the mother.
Yeah.
But don't forget, the mother just went through a humongous shamanic process. I think Walter McKitchen calls the mother a shaman, a birth shaman during a birth. So every woman becomes a birth shaman. And then we forget the mother. And then we just go, okay, you're fine now. Now, oh my gosh, the baby, we got to do this, we got to do that. Make sure he's okay or she's okay. And then the mother gets forgotten. And this is why it's really important that we look at the mother all throughout, conception, pregnancy, birth, postpartum. And I feel like in our current society, the role of the mother is lost. We just, I don't know how to describe this.
It's lost because we've forgotten, or it's lost because society has other plans for mothers?
It's because of the disconnection. It's because mothers, because now we're no, the innate intuitive nature and the physiology of the mother is no longer trusted by the medical system. So we have to go in there and do episiotomies. We have to go in there and do cesareans. We have to cut mothers apart. We have to do all these things because we believe that mothers cannot birth a child on her own. And then once the mother has done that, baby comes, and then baby is at the center of attention. And so we need to shift the focus back around to the mothers. Of course, the babies as well, but if the mother is empowered, well, healthy, the baby will be as well.
Interesting. I feel like I need to understand this a bit more. I mean,
maybe
I do.
You can go home and talk to your mother about this. Ask her what her birth story is. Because she will have her own birth story as well.
Yeah, because especially as a guy, like we'll never be. I'll never be able to learn about this kind of thing. Maybe mothers, women, they talk about this, they share these stories, but men really don't. Maybe we just don't care, or we just don't resonate with it. But it's interesting still from my perspective to hear this and to still be. I'm interested in it. I'm interested to find out different people's stories to see whether it makes sense, like whether I understand it, and to understand it myself. I feel like there is a awareness and there is a compassion for motherhood. And personally, I've never wanted to have children. I've thought about it, but I've never wanted to. I've sort of just come to terms with that. And I've always been, it's not something that I'm interested to. Maybe I'm afraid, let's put it that, I'm afraid to have kids, or I'm afraid to have that kind of responsibility. And so I resist it. And I almost like reject it sometimes. It sounds a bit bad, but I will be like, you're pregnant? Okay, well, there goes your life. You're never gonna be able to do this, or you're never gonna, tie it down forever. So then I never really bothered to understand all this. But then I guess you get older and you let go of some things, and then and I'm always seeing, because I'm teaching at Sundays at VP, and I see the kids there all the time. I look at them and they look at me and they're playing around, and then they're kids, they're innocent, and they are what's the word? What kids they are like? They're just there. They are just always there, and they are always present. They have nowhere to go. They have nowhere to be. They don't need to get home by 5. They don't need to be on a call. They are just there, right? They're just being. They're always constantly in the state of being. And then I look at them and they look at me and they're present. And I was like, what do you know that I don't know? What can I learn from this little boy or girl? And I see them for like that 2 seconds, and they look at me, and then they look at me, and then they go look at other things, and with that same intent of like, what's this? And there's that curiosity, and we forget, we were born with that people call it innocence, but I think it's more of just presence. Like you're so present. You're not in the past, you're not in the future, and you're just here. And then as adults, we worry about the future. We're anxious about the past. So then we're not present. But then the child has that ability to still be present. And then I look at them and there's something to learn from that. And I acknowledge it. I'm aware of it. I don't know what this connection is, but I'm aware of it. And then the more I talk to Amber, I talk to you, and the more I learn about these things. And then plus I'm getting older and all my friends are getting married and pregnant and stuff like that. So it's around me all the time. And then I start to learn a bit more about it. And then now like hearing this concept of that soul child and how the mother has to find the child and the child also has to find the mother. And that's something very interesting to hear. I don't know why, but it's interesting. I'm glad you shared it.
Well, thank you for being so honest about your own journey in regards to fatherhood. I think that's, the fears that you have mentioned are legitimate ones, and I'm sure many men are experiencing the same things.
It's
and
a
also,
huge responsibility.
It's
I mean, I can't even take care of myself. I can't even. I'm still like. Not many people know this, but not many people know this. But we're about the same age, right?
Yeah,
and
I'm 34. How old are you?
I'm 34 this year, so we're
87.
almost the same age.
Yeah.
And when you're outside looking in and you look at the both of us, which one's the more mature one? You can see already. Which one's I'm still a little boy in my own body, even though we're both the same age. But you're a mother now, and with the title of the mother comes responsibility and comes strength, right? The mother, ooh. But I'm still the boy.
But I feel like you've got a depth of wisdom and knowledge that you have within you that you sometimes you might not see, but I feel like you've got it. It's all within you.
I hope so.
And also the role of the men. We need more powerful men. So men like you, curious, open, to have these conversations, to open their minds about it, to talk to a woman and be able to hold space with a woman is what powerful women need. Powerful women need powerful men.
That's true.
So, and then on the other thing that you said about children being just these conscious, pure beings, back to that, like I've seen you play with children. You're very good with children.
Yeah, because I'm one as well, so I can resonate with them.
We all are, right? We all have that childlike nature within us. We've just forgotten it. But Rudolf Steiner, who is a philosopher, basically, and he talks about the child being immersed and actually still in spirit land until the age of 7, when their crown chakra closes. So 7, 8 years old, when their first teeth cuts through, the adult teeth cuts through, when their lower lumbar gets developed, when they can touch their ears with their hands over their head, when their physiology starts developing. But before that, they're still living in imagination and myths, and they're still completely one with spirit world. And they come in to us, and then we're like, don't do this, don't do that, be this person, be that, that's good, that's bad. And we start locking them into these systems of thinking that is so detrimental to the child. Nowadays with children in Singapore, they're learning to read at 5 years old. They shouldn't be learning to read until they can touch their ears with their hands, because they haven't yet developed the link between, or the bridge between the right and left brain to even learn to read. So we need to be very careful that we look at the child, that we don't start imparting these things onto the child that starts shutting them down and moving them away from this pure light energy.
I guess we can segue into language that we use with children. And I think you mentioned how there's a way to nurture them with words.
Yeah, words have a lot of power. So we have to be really, and also I'm an Aquarius, so I
communication,
air sign, and there's a lot of words that we use. For example, we go, no, 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 no. And I do it all the time with Navy. He's about to, touch an electrical cord. No, 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 no. And then now he's saying, no, 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 back to me. And so I'm also, along that journey of bringing awareness to it. Blair changes Bay every single day, and he's going, you're powerful. You're light, you're love. And just saying them to him like a mantra, and he's just looking at him into his eyes and just transmitting these qualities. And we go to the park, to the playground with Navy, and I watch Blair, and he's pushing Navy on the swing, and every push he's saying, you're love, you're light, you're powerful, everything, anything that just lifts them, that reminds them of their truth. And it's so important that we honor that in them. And I think it's also really important that we look at the child as their sovereign entity. That we're not, that we need their consent.
You're not here to control the child. You're just here to facilitate their growth.
Exactly.
And a lot of parents mistake that as, they live a certain way. Maybe they didn't get the chance to live their lives, and then therefore they try and force their expectations onto their children. And then it's a vicious cycle or so.
Because that comes from fear.
Yeah.
It comes from fear of their child not growing up the way they want them to, or whatever. It comes from this general energy of fear. So we come from a place of love. When we parent them, then we start to shift our perspective, and our language naturally shifts as well.
Yeah, it's a nice, even as an adult, to hear someone constantly reminding you of your worth. It's very empowering.
Yeah.
Especially and for it to be received as a child, where you're not as cognitively aware, but then subconsciously it still goes in, and every time you push on the swing, and it's just a very simple but effective method of just planting these little tiny seeds in them.
Yeah. I try not to teach them as much. Like, we're always in this mode of like, I have to teach my child this, that, and the other. And I try to stay quite open to them teaching me. And then, so for example, with Monroe, he's wonderful. He comes home and he tells me all about the plans that he's working with. He goes to the Waldorf school here in Singapore. And it's all about being connected to nature, because through nature they learn about themselves. And he talks to me about it. And I'm not in that space of like, well, this blue pea flower plant does this, and by the way, it does this as well, and trying to overwhelm him with information. So I'm learning to hold space for him, to create that sanctuary for him to come home and just tell me things. So for example, he was chatting to me about he brought home some earthworms, and he was telling me about them, and he loves them. He's playing with them and on his hands and everything. And then Navy is squealing, he's running away, and my mom is like, what are you doing bringing earthworms home? And it's and he's sharing them with me, and what they want from you is presence.
Yeah.
They don't want to hear you tell them more about earthworms and what they do and all the things that they, more information, more left brain stuff. So I just sit there and I listen to him, and I stay quite open to him, and I listen. And children know when you're not listening to them, when you're like kind of doing something else in your head, they're super aware of it. So I have to remind myself, because we get busy, to listen to him, to be present with him. And I hear my own breath as I listen to him. And then and then he might say something like, these earthworms like to eat these plants. And I go, eat these plants? So I repeat the last 3 words back to him. And it's something I learned from Masterclass by this guy, Chris Voss. He's an FBI negotiator.
I've seen that before, yeah.
And he was talking about communication and language, and it applies to children as well.
Right.
Because when I repeat that to him, the last
it shows
three
that
words,
you're listening.
it reminds him that I'm
Yeah.
listening, but I'm not trying to add my own information into it. And then it allows him to expand his own thoughts around it. So
Yeah,
he
yeah.
goes, yeah. And so they, not only do they love eating plants, they also love eating fruits and whatever. So like, and then he expands his own understanding of what he's working with.
Right.
And then I go, well, it sounds like these earthworms are really productive creatures. And so I mirror I mirror him, you know, I help him, and this is also, again, a Chris Voss tactic, which is amazing for children. I love it.
I bet it works for adults as well.
It works for adults,
Yeah.
works for people at the workplace, it works for everybody. And then through the way we speak to them, we hold space for them,
Right.
to expand their awareness through us allowing them the chance to. You know what I mean? So powerful.
What was that technique that you said you wanted to? You just mentioned it just now.
What technique?
You said there was another technique, and then I interrupted you.
No, I think that was it. Yeah.
Huh.
And also, I think it's really important to. It's really easy for us to be like, okay, let's read all these parenting books and like get all the information from these books and be like overcrowding our own minds with information, and we're all in left brain again. Adults, we already are in left brain all the time anyway, so we just keep pulling ourselves back there. And I find myself, what I have to do when I'm with my child is to empty my mind, to get rid of all the things I've learned and to actually respond to what's happening in front of me. So I call this intuitive parenting. So it's like, it's no longer logic. It's no longer like, because this person said I have to do this and say exactly this way that it's going to get the best outcome for me and my child. So intuitive parenting for me is just watching your child, observing your child. When does my child need some boundaries? When do I have to say to him, Monroe, it's not okay. I don't feel that, I don't like you doing that. I don't like you jumping in the bed, for example. And I like doing that. I like saying to him, I don't like you jumping in the bed, because he's relating to me, to my boundaries. And that's very important. He's not relating to some universal rule.
Of the fact of not jumping on the bed.
Yes, it's not saying you can't jump on the bed.
Yeah.
Like that is disempowering, because then he has to follow this random rule that is like, well, I want to jump on the bed, so I'm going to jump on the bed anyway. But he's relating to my boundaries as another human being, because he would have to grow up and respect other people's boundaries as well. And that's just part of living in society, in a community with people. So I don't like you jumping on the bed, Monroe. Can you please stop? And then he relates to me. And that's really important, that as a parent, that you know when to set those clear personal boundaries, but also when to let them just go and explore and play and have fun. Like, for example, with Navy, he's crawling all over the house and there's these steps, and my mom is like, oh my gosh, steps, he's going to fall down and everything. But I watch him when he was 9 months old crawling around the house, and I just stood there and I held space for him with my own energy. And then he just kind of like flicked his right butt cheek onto the edge of the step, and then his left butt cheek, and then his left leg, and then he was down. And he learned to get down by himself with his own body. And it's so empowering for him as a baby to learn that he can do it on his own, and but he, with the support from his parents, holding space for him to do so.
Oh, this is very. I've seen the way you interact with your kids, and I really like it, because it's a very empowering way of caring for little ones. And you give them that space, like what you just said, you hold space for them to just be, to grow, and to just explore their own individuality, and to become who they were meant to be without any interference, right? Because sometimes parents are strict, or they whip their kids into a certain mold, and then my son plays piano because I sent him to the piano school or whatever, whatever mold that they try and fit into it to achieve a certain whatever. But then the kid maybe he never really enjoyed playing piano. He never got the chance to explore what he wanted to do. He never felt safe enough to do so because parents didn't give him that opportunity to just explore. So seeing how you raise your kids, and even the simple fact of sometimes when you come by for your meetings on Fridays and you leave Navy downstairs and he's just there by himself, and you're fine with it. You just trust that he's gonna be fine. He's just there, and he's not crying, "Oh, where's my mommy?" He's just sort of chilling. He's just chilling in his little crib. Sometimes he stands up. He climbs. If he wants to come up, he can come up. We're there. We wave at him. He doesn't want to come up. He's happy. He's fine there. He's just chilling. He doesn't make any noise. And if he does climb up, he'll climb up. And it's just he's just there. He's just enjoying his own space. And you let him be there. You're not constantly watching him. Okay, oh, be careful. Don't touch this. Oh, it's dirty. Oh, don't, He learns in his own way. If he wants something, he'll go get it. If he touches something he doesn't like, okay, maybe I won't touch that again. Maybe I won't do that again.
Exactly.
But if you never gave that kid the chance to just make mistakes or to explore, then you stunt their growth in such a prominent way. It manifests, and then when you become an adult, you feel only now when I'm an adult that I'm free from the control of my parents am I able to then be an individual. And then by then you might not know how to do it. You don't know, or you might be too scared, or you might be just too unsure of what to do, because then everything is new again, and when you're older you have more fears because of your experiences with life. You understand, oh, maybe I shouldn't do this, later police catch or whatever. But when you're a child, you don't know any better, so you just immerse yourself in whatever. You just touch the cockroach, you put it in your mouth. What's this? I don't know.
Yes.
Because you don't know, and it tastes terrible. This is probably a gross thing, and then you learn. But as an adult, it's too risky to because you already know certain concepts, like, oh, the cockroach is gross, I don't want to touch it. But then I've never touched it. What if it feels nice? What if it wiggles on my hand and I enjoy that sensation or whatever? This is a far off metaphor, but
totally, yeah.
But it's still as an adult, it's hard to explore. As a kid, the whole world is your playground. And I guess it is important to just let your children be. It's so simple.
It's so simple.
And you're not controlling them, you're not watching them, you're not having them on a leash, you're just putting them there and then trusting that you're not neglecting them. You watch them from afar, and you make sure that they don't take a knife and run around with it, but you're just letting them be. And if they fall down, you watch, you hold on for another 5 seconds, and he comes back up and he's fine.
Exactly.
Right? Because some kids, they fall down, oh, the mother comes, are you okay? Brush, pat, are you okay? And then they cry, and then they realize that every time when I fall down and my mom's not there, then I get scared, because always when I'm hurt, my mom will save me, but then now my mom's not here. Oh, I'm helpless.
You have to allow them to process their own emotions as well, whether it's fear or anxiety or we have to allow that. We have to allow that space for them to process it, to work through it themselves, because that is empowering. If we don't let them do it now, they're not able to do it when they're older and when they're adults, and then they have to work through it then. So do we want them to work through it now or later? It's pretty simple.
The best way to overcome a negative emotion, let's say fear, is to really just allow yourself to be afraid. You let it pass you, and then once the fear is gone, then you are able to master that fear a little bit more. Because the problem comes when we resist, when we tense up and we try and resist and we try and control the things that we can't control. And the more we tense, the more we feel the fear, or we run away from that fear. And then it becomes a vicious cycle of the fear and then resist, then more fear and then resist. And it's just constantly in a state of worry. So then we're not equipped to deal with that emotion That's why we're always distracting ourselves or running away from it. When the true way of facing it is to let it happen. And then you feel it for all its, and you embrace it, and then you master it.
By the way, we're talking about our children, but we're talking about ourselves.
Yeah, I realized that, yeah. Because
yeah.
I guess like when I was speaking on how to, I was saying about the way that you raise children, I was speaking from my experience of like how my parents who never gave me that space to just explore. I mean, Asian parents, they're always there. They're always protecting you. Don't touch. Don't go on the swing. It's too dirty. Oh, okay. Don't climb that tree. You'll fall down. Oh, okay. And then I'm just always isolated. I'm always just secure. I'm safe in the bosom of my mom, and then I never get to experience anything.
Yeah, exactly. And the biggest thing for children is that we need to put them into nature as much as we can. Because in nature, they learn to protect themselves. They learn by looking at the plants and building with the twigs, and and not only that, like they're touching these microbiomes in the soil that boost their immune system, and they're connected to the circadian rhythms of when the sun rises
of life.
Exactly, and we want them to be aware of it. So how do we allow them to be aware of it is to give them as much time in nature as possible, to play with the trees, to hug the tree, and to know that this tree is a living entity. It has consciousness, it has spirit. And I see Monroe, he goes and he talks to a ladybug, and he's looking at this ladybug for like half an hour. And he's chatting with it and learning about himself through this wonderful creature. And I think that's where a lot of disconnection happens now with children. That we're all of us, they're in tuition centers, they're in school all day, they're busy with activities, and it's really, really good for a child to be bored, because what happens in boredom? Space is created.
Right, stillness.
Stillness is created. Presence is created. And then we train them. That's not a good word, but we give them the opportunity to allow spaciousness to come through, to understand that this is normal.
Yeah.
To feel spaciousness is normal. It's a normal feeling. And so put your child in nature. Let them run around. Let them be free.
I believe that's true. I mean, like as humans or so, we always gravitate towards nature, the trees. Why is it when we go to a park or a forest and we breathe the fresh air there and we start to feel that connection with the earth? Why do we suddenly feel at ease? And it's just plants. We're just breathing fresher air. How is that suddenly so impactful? Why is it that when we look at nature, when we look at the trees, we just feel a sense of connection because we came from there, what?
Exactly. We are nature.
Yeah.
So we are one with it. And it's really beautiful. We went to the beach yesterday, and Monroe picked out this frangipani flower, and it's, how it smells, really lovely. I said to him, this frangipani actually has anti-inflammatory properties. So it's really good for healing any colds, even you just have it in a bath, or it produces very loving emotions because it has the oils from it. And then he's starting to understand that, wow, if you look around and at all these plants and these trees and herbs and flowers, they all contribute, and they're all a symbiotic, synergistic product of nature that heals us, that responds to us as part of nature as well. So it's wonderful.
That's true.
I'm actually currently going through a professional herbalism program. So, I love working with plants and botanicals and using them to treat my children. And it's inspiring me. It's actually changing my genetic code as I'm going through this process, because I'm like, wow, this is opening up a whole new world for me, where now I can see how everything integrates, how everything is one. And it's, I I'm going through that shift, and then I can see how my kids are as well.
Okay. Interesting.
In fact, there was during the shutdown last year in Singapore, I was going through quite a bit of, I was doing a lot of meditation at that time, and I was also pregnant, so I was very open. And for some reason, it was about 2 weeks, I was constantly kept going into regressive states. Like I would go into my past lives, and I'm not the kind of person that, I'm not looking to go into a past life for no reason. I just allow whatever comes through. But for some reason, that entire week, every time I closed my eyes, I just went into a past life. And one of my past lives that I went into, there were multiple, and it was really nice because I had a conversation with Lee about it, because at that same time she had just finished her past life course in India, or she had just came back from it a few months ago. So it was nice to reflect off of somebody. But one of my past lives, I was a Victorian woman. I was wearing a Victorian dress with the ruffles around the neck and the long sleeves, and I was carrying this leather suitcase, and in my suitcase it was a bag full of herbs, and I was going up the steps, and I was about to meet like my young lover. I was living on the outside of society. I wasn't part of society. I was kind of like a bit of a witch, but I was practicing medicine. And I went there and I was like, oh, whatever. And then I just came out of it, and that was it. And then now this year, when the opportunity arose for me to do this course, I was like, oh my gosh, I already had this feedback from last year. And it's amazing when you just sit in silence and you sit in that space of meditation, what comes through, and how everything just connects into this lifetime. And then you realize that there is no past, there is no future. It is just a cyclical oneness that we're in. Time is time. It is just is.
When we think about that concept of like, there's no past, there's no future, there's only present, there's only here. When we're able to think of it in that way, then let me think of how I want to phrase what I want to say. It's sort of like when we understand that everything has a reason, because if let's say there's a past and there's a future and there's past lives, we live many lives, and if we are all meant to go down a certain path, each and every one of us has our own divine path, then even if we don't fulfill what we need to fulfill, if we don't learn the lesson in this life, we will learn it in the next life, if not the next and the next, because ultimately we have something needs to be fulfilled, right? So then the more we resist certain things, the more we only serve to distance ourselves from our true self, the true path, the Atma, whatever. And if we let go of that concept and we realize that whatever we do, whatever there is, we trust, we will always flow with the natural, as long as we flow with the natural flow of life, and whatever that it has to offer us, whatever the direction that it takes us, it will lead us to the path that we are meant to be at. So then, with the concept of past lives, with the concept of just being in this present moment, where you don't worry about the past, where you don't worry about the future, then there really is no reason to worry about anything, because if you trust and if you let go, we will always move in the direction that we're supposed to be moving anyway. And then I guess, like, say, when you have your regressions and you see that, like, you were a herbalist before and you're a herbalist now, and it's not like something you seeked, because the more you seek it, the more further away it gets from you. So then it's just very natural. It's just all very natural, and it's because you have this, you live a certain way and you have a certain mindset, and I think it's something that even I'm striving to find, where it's just a surrender of you just living your life day by day, being as present as you can, and you trust that you are on the right path. And some things happen, some things don't. And if it comes, then it was for you. If it leaves, that it wasn't meant for you. And I think, I'm still, there are things that I still resist.
What do you resist?
Just, say things come and go. And then if you resist it, then there's suffering. But if you acknowledge that, it came, you learned whatever you need to learn from that experience, and then it goes, then it was not meant for you, and you have to accept it. And then I'm trying to find the trust that I'm on the right path where I'm supposed to be.
I think we all have to do shadow work.
I had to talk with Edmund about this, so this is the shadow work thing. Yeah, and we need to face it, and we need to sort that out as well, because the shadow is still part of you. It is just a reflection of you. And it's always there, it's always following you, just like the actual shadow. But we can't let it consume us.
I think that in yoga, we're always moving towards the light. We're always, the light in me bows to the light in you, namaste. What about the darkness in me bows to the darkness in you, namaste? Like that, but yoga has that, we do yin and yang. That is the light and the shadow, but we're always working towards the light. But that's where the shamanic work comes in. You're looking at your doing inner child work, healing the wound within you, healing ancestral patternings that arise within you in this lifetime.
Tell me more about the inner child work thing that we talked about briefly about it. What is your understanding of it?
It's the wounds from past lives or from your childhood. Perhaps it can be as simple as like my mother caned me when I was 5 years old because I didn't want to go to school. And that's a wound. That's trauma. My mother did the best she could as a mother. She was, amazing. But she had her own inner child work that wasn't done and ancestral work, that ancestral patternings that she has taken on from her father who caned her when she was a little girl. Right. So then when I was a little girl, she caned me. And then I have to heal those wounds because I was 5.
Yeah.
I was wide open. I was spirit being. And that's traumatic. So acknowledging it, bringing awareness to it, and the feelings that come around it, the fear that comes up around it, negativity, is really important. And it's not just that. It's I'm just giving an example.
Right.
But we all have to do it. We all have to look at it. Because if we don't, then we just carry it around with us until we actually start looking at it when we're older. And then by then it might be too late, and then it's next lifetime.
Do you think, I think I was having this conversation with York, and she said something about how trauma is passed down through biologically sometimes. Like your mother had faced this thing, and then when you're born, you feel the same trauma as well. I never understood it in a logical sense, because I guess I'm always trying to understand things intrinsic things in a logical sense. But when you said that, it reminded me about how, I just suddenly thought about how whatever traumas that I'm dealing with was similar to the traumas that my dad was facing as well. So maybe it was passed down to me, and then maybe it is also my responsibility to deal with that before it gets passed down again somehow, some way. And I feel the similarities in terms of that. And through I practice yoga, so then comes with awareness, and I'm aware of that, and I've always been trying to understand it, and I'm always trying to just rationalize it, to understand it, right?
I actually really believe that if you and I, we heal our wounds,
we heal others as
we
well.
heal our wounds. So if you heal your wound, whatever it is, you will heal your dad's wound. And then this wound is healed, so it's no longer passed down to the next generation, to your children.
Yeah.
And if it's not, then it gets passed down until somebody along the way works to healing it.
Interesting.
And also, in the womb, the mother, what's the mother going through? Was the mother stressed? Was she going through a divorce? Was she experiencing grief, loss, whatever? The child takes it all on, and the child is born with those same emotions in its cellular structure. And so that's inner child work, having to go back into these spaces and acknowledging it, bring awareness to it, accepting it, moving through it. It's really profound, but we all have to do it. If we want to see a better world, we all have to.
Yeah, I wonder what other people's experiences are, whether they're able to tap into this awareness of how, let's say, they are dealing with something very profound in their life, and it's something that is a constant test. You know, like if everybody has a lesson to learn, and if you're not aware of what that lesson is, it will keep coming back, and it will force you to face it. So there's always a theme in your life where these things keep happening to you and you wonder why. It's a form of synchronicity or so, because you probably have to learn that lesson.
For me, that was, I mean, sorry to interrupt you, but what came up for me is my own healing. And so when I go back, I've had a couple past life regressions. One I did with a very skilled practitioner who was a trained student of Brian Weiss, who's a very skilled regressionist therapist. And I worked with her, and she has a practice out of North Bondi in Sydney. And then another time was when I just went into my own meditation and I went there. But in one of the regressions I went into, I was a young girl living in China, and I had a mother, and we both lived together. And then I was running through the field, and I knew we were very poor. So I went, at the age of 14, I sold my body to bring money home from my mother. And in that lifetime, my mother in that story is my mother in this lifetime. And so I can feel that same sadness between my mother and I in this lifetime, that has been created in that lifetime. And then I grew up, and she knew I was selling my body to give money to her for food. And she never said a single thing to me. And but I could feel her sadness and her disappointment in herself for not having done enough for me. And then I ended up on this side of the road selling vegetables, and I was quite like this pretty young girl. And then this man from the city, because I was living in the country, he came by, and he was wearing this white suit with white leather shoes and white fedora hat. And he came along and he picked me up, and off we went. And we got married, and we had a young boy together. But he was this sort of like older gentleman, and I was this helpless young girl. I was vulnerable. And I gave my power away to him. He saved me, and I thought in order for me to thank him was just to give this power away to him. So I ended up living this quite meaningless life where I just felt empty, and I ended up dying from pneumonia. And I remember during the regression how I was coughing like my lungs out as I was on my deathbed and crying and just feeling so sad that I had that was my life. And I went into spirit world, and I came back, and the same thing is occurring to me in this lifetime, where for the first 30 years of my life, I consistently gave my power away to men around me, my father, my ex-marriages, my ex-husbands, because I just thought that that was just what I knew. It was I had to heal that wound. And then finally, through a lot of work, a lot of
self-discovery,
a lot of all that, I made that shift, And once that clicked within me, I could not understand how I could have been there in the first place. And I feel very proud of myself to have had done that work, to have to move through it. And I still love my dad immensely. And I love, my ex-partners. They are, beautiful human beings. But I love myself more. And so I send love to them, but in that process, I honor myself. And it's an amazing thing to discover in this lifetime for me. And, now I'm with an amazing human being, Blair, and he not once will he imagine ever to take my power away from me. In fact, he's empowering me to discover myself. One of the things he does that's really amazing is just sometimes I come home and I have a question. I don't know what to do about something. It's just a small thing. It's not a big thing. And he doesn't respond. He doesn't answer my question. He just holds space for me. And then in a couple of days' time, I'm like, yep, I got the answer, and he's like, okay, great. And he supports me in that. And not once will he come giving me advice or trying to guide me a certain way and mold me into a certain thing.
Interesting.
And it's, that's the basis of empowerment, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. I guess it's something to learn from that as well. Like the concept of holding space, it's so important, and it's also quite hard to understand if you're not familiar with it. Like I guess even me, I tend to sometimes impose my ideas on people, or if they ask for advice, it's like, oh, you want my advice? Well, this is what you should do, blah, blah, blah. But yet, that's not what they needed, and if I was to try and be as caring as I could, all you needed to do was just to be present. That was all that they needed. I got a lot to learn, man.
I mean, the thing about empowerment is that you want the person asking you the question to discover the answer within themselves. So even like at the studio, it's a good example. We had this conversation in a meeting one day with Angie and Nurul and Sunny, they're all working in the management team here in Hom Yoga. And sometimes we hear students say, oh, what do you think I should do to start with? What practice should I come into? And I said to them, it's really important that we don't start dispensing with advice. Oh, you should. The word should is always really, we've got to be really careful to use that word. Oh, you should do this hot hatha class because it's the easiest. There's no flow, and all that kind of stuff. It's not empowering for the first time practitioner to just be dispensed with advice like that.
Right.
A much more empowering thing to do is to allow them to discover what works for them to start with. So we ask questions. We hold space by asking questions. We say, what are you working with right now? Like, do you want something more fluid?
Yeah.
Are you working with an injury? Are you pregnant? And then we can be like, well, this class is this, and that. So give the facts of what the class is. And then they will be like, well, actually, I think because I'm working with a hand injury right now, I might just start with a hot hatha or the hatha classes to begin with.
And then that's your answer.
And that's their own empowering choice. And then they can take responsibility for themselves.
Right.
And then that's when the responsibility comes in. So responsibility is the ability to respond, which is, we want more people to do that for themselves, and then if more people can take responsibility, then again, we will have a much more beautiful planet to live on.
That's true.
But that's just one little example. It can be practiced all the way through with friendships, partnerships, etc.
Yeah. Okay. What a break.
Tell me what's going on with you. You said that you were going through quite a lot of self-reflection lately.
Yes. Like one of the reasons why I wanted to do this podcast with you is because we're able to just chat. We're able to just shoot the shit and then just talk.
Yeah.
And And before this, I was supposed to do a podcast with Yok Wen. So, if people in podcast land, you don't know who Yok Wen is, she's the kids yoga teacher here. She's also the author of the book Lessons from the Himalayas.
That's right.
Which is sold here if you want to get a copy. Anyway, so I was supposed to talk to her, and I think it was last Monday or something. But then I told her, and I got my own I was going through something, and then I told her, I don't think I am able to hold space. So then can we postpone it? So I'm gonna still talk to her, but then I postponed it, and when I postponed it, I felt like it was okay, let's say if I'm sad, and I tell Angie I'm sad, can I don't go to work today, So, okay, yeah, but then I can't just keep doing this one. I can't just I'm sad, so then I don't want to do this, I don't want to do that. And the body is something that I enjoy doing. It's also a creative outlet for me. And then I was a bit disappointed that I didn't do it. Even though I know that you sort of need to be in a good space to be able to hold space, right? And I wanted to honor Yok and not bring my own baggage into her episode. But then when I cancelled it, I was like, okay. And then I ended up still being a bit lost. And then I knew that I had this excess of energy, or rather a lack of energy, that I needed to funnel into something to then regain that energy back. If you're in a rut, you need to pull yourself out of it. You need to just pull yourself out of it and then get the thing in motion, and then it will get better. So I reached out to you and said, hey, you want to chat? You want to just talk nonsense? And here we are. And it's the best episode so far. But on a personal note,
You said you were going through a breakup.
I lost someone recently. And it's not a literal loss. It's not a literal death, but it's just the same. Where I won't
take a deep breath.
It's the same as a literal. It's not a literal death, but it's as good as one, because I'll never see her again. I'll never talk to her again. I guess I will see her again if but I don't think I'll talk to her again, and I don't think she'll talk to me again. It's one of those things. So then, where do I begin? So I'm bummed, but I also am grateful for the experience, and I'm grateful for the experience, and I can and like I said just now about how people come and people go. If they come, you're grateful for that experience, and then when they leave, you're grateful for that experience as well. And I don't hold on to anything, I don't grasp anything, and I just love. I just send my love, and I love, and I just let go. And so through that process of grieving, I've been sitting with myself, and I've been meditating, and I've been just trying to feel what I need to feel to let it pass me. And a lot has surfaced. And so previously it wasn't even just one person that died. The one before and the one before, they all died, they all died, and I never saw them again. And I think my reflection from all this is that something needs to change, because if you keep doing the same thing over and over again, and the same results come out, and you expect a different result, then that's the definition of insanity. Because nothing is changing, and then you're still falling into the same circle. So then as I get older and I get more mature and I get more aware of certain things, then I realize that what's holding me back is fear. So then I let myself feel that fear, and it all stems from also the what do you call it, the when you were young, and all those past traumas that you felt that have led me to live in a certain way and have made me choose to be in a certain way as well. So I was always resistant to relationships. I was always resistant to caring for someone or being responsible for someone or for having someone be responsible for me. So then, in hindsight, I was always pushing people away.
It's such great insight. And the honesty of it as well, the awareness of it is the start to the healing process.
So then, what was I? So then, through the sitting, a lot of things arised, and I felt like I felt angry at myself because I had been resisting so much. Like, how do I say this? So I've always thought that I spoke about this before, this concept about me always seeking freedom. You know, like, we all have this thing that we always, like, our calling, like something that we're always resonating with. And what resonated with me the most was freedom. Freedom in every sense of the word. Freedom in a literal sense, where I really don't want to get tied down. I want to be able to pick off and leave. I travel. I want to do whatever I want. I don't want anyone to tell me what to do. But that was a negative, what's the word? A lower vibration of freedom, because freedom, the higher vibration of freedom can mean liberation from your fears, and freedom from all the negativity. What am I trying to say? Let me collect my thoughts for a bit. So the more I seek freedom, the more I don't have it. Because the more things that you seek, the more you seek security, the more insecure you feel. The more you seek certainty, the more uncertain things become. The more you desire connection, the more alone and the more separate you be. So the more you seek, the more you search for things, it only serves to reinforce your lack of it. So the more I seeked freedom, the more I realized I wasn't free.
It's the attachment to it. That's part of the 8 limbs of yoga.
So then, I wanted to seek freedom, but I was seeking it so much that I felt trapped in my own cycle, trapped in my own, like, I want to be free so that I don't want to get tied down. I don't want to let anybody in because they are infringing on my freedoms. But then I trap myself on, I limit myself, and I prevent myself from being content because I deny myself those experiences. So then, it wasn't freedom that I was seeking, because this is not freedom. What I was actually seeking was security. So I was listening to this lecture by Alan Watts, The Wisdom of Anxiety.
Love Alan Watts.
Ooh,
oh my gosh.
Bless him. So I'm listening to his lecture, and he says security. What did he say? Security is to take away the I and isolate it. The I being the Atman, the universal self, the ego, the capital I, quote unquote. To be safe, to be secure, is to isolate the I. And when you isolate the I, you fortify it, you trap it, and it's alone, and it's afraid. And the desire of security is the same as the feeling of insecurity. The desire for security is the same thing as feeling insecure, because the more you hold on to it, the more you lose it. You hold the breath, you lose the breath, right? So the more you seek, the more you don't have it. The more you find security, the more insecure you feel. And we feel this lack of everything because we are resistant to the natural flow of life. The more we grasp, the more we hold on to things, it only serves to, again, show us how distant we are from it. Because life in its essence is uncertain. Life in its essence is insecure, and it is impermanent. And all these things make up life. So then if we resist the chaos of life, we resist life itself. So then we're not living. So then the only way to be a part of it is to be it, is to feel it, is to embrace it for all its emotions, to let the fear pass, to let the sadness pass. So then, another quote by Alan Watts is, he says that to know that you can do nothing is the beginning. So, because life is uncertain and insecure and everything, you can do nothing. That is a fact. There is believing in something, and then there is knowing something, and you know that there is nothing you can do. And therefore, lesson 1 is to give up, to surrender to everything. And you are just a drop in the river, and you let the river of life flow. And if it turns this way, if it turns that way, if it falls down the waterfall, if it turns into a ravine and falls into a drain, then that is it. That's it. Because to resist the flow, you can't. You're a drop in the ocean. You can't resist the flow of the river. And to resist it is suffering. So then, my understanding, or rather what I'm trying to understand now, or rather what I'm trying to accept now, is that this is all part of the process. This is just the river flowing. And whatever comes, know that it is impermanent and it will leave. And all I can do is just be grateful for that experience. And if it passes as well, I have to be grateful for that experience also. That is, say, the lesson of non-attachment and the lesson of acceptance. Then the second lesson through this experience is learning to love. So again, because
that's a big one. That's huge.
I need to breathe. Learning to love. So I guess I've been very closed. So I don't know how to love. And love isn't a rare commodity that is so, it's not like gold where you need to save it or you need to hold on to it. Love is in everyone. Everyone's capable of love. To love is to exist. We are all surrounded by love. Love is in abundance. It's not about holding on to it, and it's more about how we use it. So I have it. I have love. We all have love. We are capable of love. I love yoga. That's love. I love jujitsu. I love eating ice cream. That is love. If I can love ice cream, I am capable of love, right? It's how we use it. It's how we funnel that love. And if we don't use it, okay, so we have to learn to use it. And the only way to use it is to give it away. There's no way of holding on to love, because there's no way of holding on to anything, because everything is impermanent. And everything that we try and hold on to, we try and grasp, when we try and act like God and try and control and manipulate everything around us, we lose that divine energy. But when we give it away, that divine energy comes back to us. Everything around us, the buildings, the skyscrapers, the pyramids, all these things that we have built, that humans have built, the iPhone 12, the iPhone 13, all these things are just things that we are trying to advance to prove how immortal we can be, but we cannot. That's why we create so much. We create the big buildings, we create all these wondrous structures, but all these at the end of the day will crumble. All this, it's all falling apart. The moment that we are born, we're already in a state of decay. We're already constantly dying. So there is impermanence, and that impermanence is a gift. because it reminds us that there is nothing to hold on to. Because if you keep holding on to it, you're gonna die, and then it's gone. So there's no reason to hold on to it. So if you can't hold on to it, you gotta let it go. You gotta give it away. And if you give it away, like how things, if you give it away, it comes back to you. So say love. When you hold, the only way to use love is to give it away, to give yourself away, to let love happen. And it's a concept that I've only recently understood. So, if you don't use it, then it decays in your body as well, and it becomes destructive. Then you self-destruct because you have too much of it, or you don't use it, and it dies within you, and then you just self-destruct. So then to save yourself is to love others, to use it, and it's a new concept that I'm learning, and I'm trying to understand, and I'm try my best to love everything, to love myself, to love others, and at night when I sit and when I burn my Palo Santo and I wave it around my room and I get ready for my meditation, and I sit on my pillow and I cross my legs and then I pray. I pray that I'm free from the desire of wanting the things that are not meant for me. I pray that I am on the right path. I pray that the river will take me where I need to go. And I remind myself again that I have no control, that I am not special, that I'm just me, I'm just a drop. We're all just drops. We're not important. We're just drops in this ocean, and we're all connected, and we're just flowing. We're all flowing in the same direction, wherever that takes us. Different paths, but still, we're all in the same river. I pray that, if we're meant to meet, we're meant to meet, and I remind myself not to resist anymore, not to try and control, not to be fearful of whatever that happens, and I love, therefore I am. I love, therefore I want to continue to be. I love, therefore I am loved, or at the very least I live in the awareness of the absence of love, and I hope for it, and therefore my being matters. And I love with an open hand. I love with an open hand. I love without grasping. I love without clasping anything. I don't expect anything. And in the process of loving, we set others free, and in that process also we set ourselves free. So then to be free is to love. So that is my understanding of it now. And because of that new shift of perspective, then things like with all changes of perspective, there's a new look, there's a new lease on life, there's a new things change, right? Things have to change, things have to improve, otherwise you're still stuck with everybody's growing around you, everybody's improving in their own way because they don't resist they don't resist their growth. But all this while I've been resisting this growth, I've been refusing to invite this energy into my life. And so then I think only recently then I started to realize that oh shit, I've been denying myself such a powerful energy, and I feel tired because all this while I've been protecting myself, and I'm draining my energy in self-defense.
It's what they say, like with great love brings up great fear. So we we don't love because we don't want to be in a state of fear, paradoxically.
But the thing is, like, as much as I feel this pain now, it's also liberating because to love is to risk. Love is suffering, everything is suffering. And love and hate are two same things of the what do you call it? Same sides of a different sides of the same coin or something.
Yeah.
So if you can hate someone with so much vigor, you can equally just as much love someone. That's why I see sometimes when people fall in love and they get divorced, they hate each other. I was like, oh, how did you become from such a loving couple to like you hate each other's guts so much? So it's the same thing. And to open yourself up to love is to also open yourself up to everything else, the pain, the sadness that comes with it. And all these things, again, if you look at it from a third person perspective, it's just all life. Everything that we're experiencing, all these emotions, it's all part of life. So then what I'm experiencing is life, and I feel alive because of that pain. And I'm growing from it. And had I restricted myself from feeling all this thing, then I would have been still stuck with where I was before. So again, it's that false sense of security where like, oh, I'm aware of all this pain that comes from love. So then, why am I going to put myself through all that? I'm just not going to involve myself in it. So I don't feel anything.
Which invites more suffering.
But then I don't feel anything. I don't feel anything at all. And I don't experience what life is meant to be experienced or how it's meant to be experienced. Because all this is part of life. The sadness comes with the happiness. You experience the happiness, part of life. You experience the sadness, part of life. Good days, bad days, negative thoughts, positive thoughts, all just part of it. So then I understand and I let myself feel what I need to feel, and I accept everything, and I know that I can do nothing about it, and I just embrace.
That's why in our culture everyone's striving for happiness, positivity, but I think it's also really important for us to acknowledge emotions of sadness, anger as an essential part of who we are.
Every emotion emotions are human. To feel is to be human. And we always try and resist the negative emotions, but then if we let it sit, if we just let it pass us, things come out of it. So that's why the past few weeks, especially with my fucked up knee, it's healing. And just as much as it's healing, and I see the progression of it. Every day I get better, I get stronger, I get more flexible. But then some days I don't. I get more stiff and I get achy. But it's all part of the process. Just like mental, emotional healing also, where like there are days where, I meet my friends and I feel happy and I think I'm getting better, I feel better. And then one day I just wake up, oh man, I think about it and like, oh shit, I feel sad. And it's just a cycle, it's up and down, and you just have to accept it. And the thing about this thing also, it's really like death, where like, I'll never see that, maybe it's not as bad as death. But I'll never get to say what I want to say. I'll never get to see her. I'll never get to... And even if I do see her again, it won't be the same as how we were last time. It will be different. Maybe there'll be resentment or animosity, or maybe she would have moved on or whatever. And so that it won't be the same. At that moment back then, we were something, and then now it's different, and you can't chase that. You can't live in the past anymore. And I've always been living in the past. And I've always been worrying about the future, and there's no way to live. So then it's all about being here, it's about being present. And again, and every night when I burn my past on time, I just wave it around my room and I sit on my meditation pillow and I pray and I contemplate, and I just try to just accept and to don't chase and to move forward, to always be moving forward. And it's a lot of lessons, I feel. It's so interesting.
You're kind of going through like this humongous shift in your genetic code. You're upgrading your system. I
feel like the change is biological. If anything, I feel like I am just more open Because if you invite love into your life, then you are just so much more open to feeling everything. You're not scared anymore. Love comes with all the sadness, and it's like being vulnerable, right? If I choose to be vulnerable, someone else can choose to take advantage of that of it, and then I'll feel sad. And then if I feel sad or betrayed, I'll be like, well, I'm not gonna let that happen again, and I protect myself again. But like I said, the security is not. It's false sense of security. There is never a true sense of security. So then, the more you isolate, the more you feel afraid, and the more you spiral again. So then, imagine someone who gets hurt all the time and still decides to show up. That's strength. That is power, right? To be vulnerable is to be powerful.
It's really easy to say it.
Yeah,
it's hard to. It's much harder to embody it.
Yeah.
But that's where the work is. It's where the practice is.
Especially now, since it's so raw and it's so fresh and it's so trying. But every day I do feel better. Every day I still, I go through my own phase, but I feel better. Or rather, I don't. Maybe I don't feel better. It's more of like I feel more equipped to handle it. And the pain is always going to be there, just like a death. Like if someone close to you passes away, you're not going to one day be like, oh, I'm fine. You still feel the residualness of that pain, but it's just more manageable. You think back on it, oh man, I miss that person. Oh well, life goes on. At the beginning stage, it's always like, I'm boo-hoo and woe is me, and like, why could this happen? And you question and you resist. You're always like, oh, it's too soon. Why did this person die or whatever? But like I said, we're all gonna die. Everything around us is impermanent. Everything is gonna fall apart. Nothing to hold on to. Give it away. So that's my story.
If we contemplate death on a daily basis, we will truly live.
Yeah. To remind ourselves that we're all gonna die. Memento mori.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing.
Thank you for holding space.
It's big stuff that you're going through.
Saving it for the best podcast episode.
But it's what everyone else is experiencing as well. It's not just you.
I wonder what people are. I mean, like breakups. Everybody can relate to breakups. I don't even know. I
can relate to this. Oh my gosh!
Like I feel weird calling it a breakup episode.
Well, it's not even that. It's something more than that. But I remember, remember, Blair and I went through something similar in the sense like we didn't break up, but it was at the very beginning of our relationship, and there was a point where I still had stuff I had to deal with my ex-partner, and it wasn't resolved, and so Blair said to me, look, like, let's just take some time apart to work on all this stuff, and then we'll come back together again or not. But then I felt like it was when he said that, and then he left. He went back to Sydney. So I remember clearly that weekend. Oh my gosh, it was like I was dead. I could not wake up in the morning, and I would wake up happy, and then I would think about the fact that he wasn't in my life, and I would just go into this deepest of depression. And I wasn't in contact with him because I was supposed to work my stuff out. And I was in bed all weekend. I tried my best to get myself out of bed. And when I did, I was a zombie. I was walking around completely clueless as to what I had to do next. And I was so sad. I felt like I had died. And I completely understand, like, when you talk about death in this process of this journey of in the context of relationships, it was the saddest. When I go back there, and I playfully remind Blair of that moment between the both of us, and he's like, oh, you're still holding on to that, but he remembers it. He remembers that feeling himself, how he felt lost, and how we were just it was so hard. And then finally, at that time I had Instagram, so I would scroll Instagram because I was like, I need to find out what he's doing, because I would feel connected to him somehow. And then there was one of them, and he was out with his friend on a boat in Sydney, and I was like, he's having fun without me. And I was like, then I got angry.
Right.
I was angry the whole day, and I felt these really volatile emotions come up within me. And then finally, about day 3 of not contacting each other, a text message came, and he was like, can we talk? And I was like, I made sure that I took 10 minutes to answer because I didn't want to sound too eager. And then I answered 10 minutes later, like, what do you want?
It's like, yeah, what do you want?
And it was, but then we ended up talking, and then we talked the whole night, and here we are, 2 children later, and it's, and it's 3 plus Monroe. And, it is a process. It's a journey, you know, and the stuff that comes up is so powerful that you have no choice but to look at it. Yeah, and then the insecurity that this great love brings to you. Sadhguru says falling in love. When you look at the words falling in love, you don't climb into love. You have to fall. You have to surrender. You have to just jump off the cliff and just hope that you can soar. Or you may just dive down to your deepest depth.
Yeah.
And I felt like in that weekend, the 3 days, I jumped off the cliff and I just fell into the hole down below. And it was a curious journey to be on, but very humbling.
Yeah. See, like, so I guess whatever I'm going through now, because it's at this peak of it, but I know that once it passes, there will be clarity and there will be a new perspective. Like, something good will come out of this. Just like how when you, in that 3 days, maybe the second day or the first day, you felt like, oh, this is it, this is the end. But then by the third day, or as time goes on, things progress. Like, the natural flow of life again starts to move, and then things are fine. So even though now things feel horrible, or things are like, oh, I'm never gonna pull through this, just give it time. You'll feel better, and then like things go back to normal, and then you move on, and then you remember this fondly as a time that you learned the lesson. So then, at the start, it's always just you resist. Like, what do you mean he's on a boat? How can he be happy? I'm here, going through this, and But then you just let it be. You just let time take its course, and then it comes back to you because it's meant to be. So then I'm just trying to accept what's happening and let things take its natural flow. I'm not trying to resist anymore. And I think before I met the previous one, I told myself, so I was almost shifting already, but then fear overcame me once again. So during that, before I met her again, there was someone that I met before, but it didn't work out before her. But she was also someone that I was very close to settling with. But then I just pulled back, and then I pulled back and she pulled back, and then it didn't work out. So then I told myself after her, I was not going to resist anything else that happens. If it happens, I will let it take its course. And then a couple of months or a couple of weeks later, I met the recent one. And then things were great, and then things were fine, and she was a mirror to me, and she reflected all the things back to me, and it was very powerful, and it was very profound. And then the closer she got to me, the more I got scared, and then the more I resisted, and to the point where it's a physical kind of resistance. Like when she came to hug me, I would move away. I was okay, because let's say she tried to hug me, like surprise me. I was like, oh, what is this? And she could sense it, and it's not a very nice thing for someone to feel. And then like there are times when I would have nightmares about it. Like I would physically, like I would really have actual nightmares about commitment. So it's not it's real. It's very real. It's a real fear that manifests. And when it reached a certain point, I just succumbed to it, and then we parted again, and And of course, like when the dust settles, I think back on it. Why did I let this happen? Why wasn't I brave enough? I was so close, you know. But then it's because of her departure that now I'm so sure of what I don't want to repeat anymore. So then at that point I couldn't have changed anything, because I did what I couldn't have overcome my fear back then. If anything, I would have resolved to where I was, and there is a sadness to that resolve, like, oh, I mean, okay lor, if you want to be together, oh, okay lor, then it wouldn't be authentic. But because she left and the pain came, and then the lesson was learned, oh, it's being unraveled to me now, then in the future, should our paths cross again, should we meet again, whether in this life or the next, or if I meet someone else, then it will be true, because then I'll be open to receive. So then whatever that happened was meant to happen. So then how can I look back on that negative, like, and be upset about it? Because it helped me. Just like even my knee. So I got caught in a bad spot. Pop. There goes a whole year of rehab, and like I'm out from work for like a month, and I have to go physio and blah blah. And I can look back on that as something bad that happened to me. Why did this happen to me? Life sucks. But then when it happened, I was very excited to find out what this lesson is gonna be, what it's gonna teach me. And it had taught me a lot of things. It taught me to sit with myself, and it almost physically forced me to sit, and because I couldn't move, I couldn't run away. So then whatever issues I had at home, I had to sit with it, and I dealt with it, and whatever emotion stirred, it happened. And then after it happened, I realized that, okay, it's not so bad. I can deal with it. I feel stronger. And then also when this happened, then it's now a physical and an emotional healing at the same time. And the physical healing reminds me of the progress of how the emotional healing is working. There are days when I'm tired, there are days when I'm fit, the same thing emotionally. And this is my, my knee. What happened to me is my karma. And I accept my karma. Karma is action. So then, this is my life is my karma. My life is still my action, and I still have power over it. I still have the ability to choose how I decide to respond to all these things. And I've chosen to respond in the best way I can, or just to accept, to embrace, and to not resist. Why did this happen to me? This happened to me because, or rather, this didn't happen to me because, but this happened for me because. So then I'm always trying to find the answer. What is this trying to teach me? What is the lesson from this thing? So then, with the recent breakup, I'm just thinking like, what can this teach me? And I'm slowly uncovering that. I'm slowly coming to terms with it. I'm embracing it. And I just don't resist it. I can't resist it. To resist is to suffer. Why am I going to put myself through that?
The beautiful thing of this whole thing is that you're taking responsibility for yourself. You're not in a place
I'm
of
not blaming anyone.
Shaming
blaming
somebody
her.
else.
Yeah. If anything, I send my love to her because she's taught me such a great lesson. I send my love to all the previous ones that I've met whose only fault was for them to love me back. Best episode ever.
I love it.
Do you have anything else you want to share?
Is there anything else you want to know about?
Let's see. What are your experiences with love? We talked about this before on the previous podcast as well, but I feel like you have some experience with that, and how you have different spectrums of love. You have say for me, my spectrum of love is very limited to say maybe a yes or a no. It's very binary to me, or it's maybe just friendship, romance. But for someone like you, who's a mother, who's a wife, who's a caretaker, you have a huge spectrum of love. And that love can be in the sense of romantic, friendship, motherly love, a love to a stranger, a love for yoga, a love, like different variations of it.
I think for
Teach me something. Yeah.
Well, I mean, I can just share from my own personal experience. But with loving men, so it has been a roller coaster, actually, for me. I was married once, first relationship, and it was a relationship that taught me a lot about myself. He was an Australian boy, married very young, and essentially I gave my power away to him. So it was the same storyline, and he took it and ran away with it, and I ended up feeling very disempowered and very lost and very lonely in that relationship. And when I made a decision to separate, the nastiness came out. And
from you or from him?
From him.
Yeah.
And it was interesting to watch that unravel. But again, it's like your story. Like, I'm very grateful for the experience. And then my second marriage, it was very chaotic. It was like there was addiction involved,
Whoa.
Alcoholism involved, suicide.
On his part or your part?
His part. So because he was going through alcoholism, an addiction to alcohol, which is actually very common. We can all be addicted to something, a feeling. We can be addicted to coffee. We can be addicted to yoga. It doesn't matter what the addiction is. It's just an addiction. And it was very messy. It was a very messy relationship. And I found myself in the relationship grasping to hold it together and doing everything I can and serving. And I thought to love somebody is just to keep them together, to serve them, to help them, to give myself away again. But this time it's in another regard. It's a different giving of myself away than the first marriage. And so it was very hard. And when I made that decision to move away from that relationship, it was one of the hardest decisions I had to make because we already had a child, Monroe's biological father. And it was hard because I had to decide to break the family apart. But doing that was the best thing I could have done for myself and for Monroe. And we had to go through 2 or 3 years of healing, of working through that trauma, of the experiences of seeing his dad and my partner so drunk on alcohol that we didn't know if he was going to live through the night. Experiences of watching him take a rope and try to commit suicide. The experiences of looking out the window and watching someone jump into the water and thinking to myself, oh, wait a minute, that's my partner. He's going to drown himself now? And the fear that comes up.
Right.
The experiences of seeing blood all over the floor after someone's passed out and just passed out face first into the marble floor. These are really traumatic experiences. And I thought, to love somebody, to love my child, is to keep it all together and to be this like self-functioning person, and I realized actually to love my child, to love myself, and to love my ex-partner is to say, that's it.
Yeah.
We have to break this. We have to cut the cycle of abuse. And when we did that, it was the best thing that happened for everybody. for Rob, for Monroe, and for myself. And then through that healing, I could see a different way of love, a different approach to love, which is empowering, supportive, through my relationship with Blair.
Sometimes people think that like the breakup is a bad thing. Oh, you know, a divorce is bad. Oh, but to not take action when you're suffering is also equally as bad. And even though, say something as like divorce, when you leave that environment, you're able to then grow. You're able to be in a better space to then nurture your own child. Then he feels better because he has the love from you. Say the husband or the other party who has safety in the relationship realizes now that, wait a minute, now no one's going to watch out for me when I'm fucked up. I need to watch out for myself.
Exactly.
And I need to grow now because I have no one left.
Everyone
so then
can
you're
grow.
Forced, because of the divorce, the parting forces you to then take action. Otherwise, you will go down.
Because
so
in that
it's
space,
not a negative thing, yeah.
Well, in that space, it was a codependent relationship,
Right.
and codependency is so unhealthy. Because no one is taking responsibility for themselves.
Yeah.
So the minute I said, if you choose to do this in the future and have another Mickey of vodka or whatever, that's your choice. But if something happens to you along the way, then that's the consequence from your choice. And I was no longer in saving mode, and he was no longer in victim mode. And so I got myself I had to really put a lot of consciousness to that dynamic between myself and Rob, that fine line of what love is. We can mistake that for love, but it's not. And yeah, so that was a huge lesson for me.
Interesting. How? Okay.
He's now very well, just so everyone knows. He's in Bali, and he's part of the Alcoholic Anonymous AA program, and now he is the mentor for other people who are going through the same journey. So, you know, he stepped into that amazing, empowering role for others now.
Yeah.
So everything worked out wonderfully, but I could have made the choice to have been there until today.
Right.
And that would have been my choice to be there. Do you know what I'm trying to say? Like we can't take, like, we have choices. We have free will in this lifetime. We can't just sit back and allow life to happen to us. We have a blueprint, like our soul has chosen the blueprint of what we're going to do and kind of the outline of what this life is going to look like, but we have choices as well. And we have to take those steps towards empowerment.
Yeah. And I guess that was something that you seeked out because you kept giving your power away to these people. And then it came to a point where, like, you needed to stand up for yourself and you needed to take action. And through that action, you found your freedom.
Yeah. I mean, I was equally, like, in this particular situation, you would call me a co-addict, because I was addicted to the chaos. I was addicted to the excitement of something like this happening unconsciously or subconsciously or even consciously.
Right, yeah.
And so when I brought awareness to the fact that I was a co-addict, and this is not just, so this is me saying I take responsibility for my choices for being in this relationship. And when I brought awareness to that, I could finally say, okay, this is, I could dispel the energy of it, and then I could move away from it. And now I can't, when I look back, I'm like, how could I have been there? I don't understand, because my cells now choose peace.
Right.
A loving, peaceful relationship. And it doesn't understand that chaotic humdrum of a relationship.
That part of you is gone now, you know.
It's like, again, like a genetic upgrade to the system. But you have to again, it's moving through the darkness, because there were very dark days, and I sat with it, and I moved through it, and thankfully I had a lot of support around me as well, which is very important. But again, no one else is going to help you but you.
Yeah.
So you can talk to a million people and they're all going to say the same thing, like, oh, of course, and blah, 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 give you nice words. But ultimately, the work that has to be done is done by you. And that was because everyone in this world wants to be saved by somebody.
Yeah.
And then we go into that victim mode.
Yeah. I feel like I've definitely been down that road.
They call it the hero's journey, right?
Joseph Campbell.
Yeah.
To lose yourself is to find yourself. So all the more you need to embrace all the chaos of the world, and to go through what you need to go through to come out of it and become stronger.
And then the other thing as well with love is, I was just having a chat with Sheena about it downstairs, so it's perfect because she was sharing with me about some recent news from her family, and her grandmother had passed on, and a beautiful death, which is wonderful, and I love hearing it. And we're talking about unconditional love, and I said to her, like, you know, it's really someone said to me once that like, now I have 3 children. Sorry, my train of thought, I'm trying to collate it here, but there's this urge in me to want to create another being, like another baby.
Whoa. Number 4.
Well, no, I'm just saying it's an urge. It's not like I have to go and do it. Number 4, 5, 6, 7, whatever.
Right.
But where is this urge coming from? And it's this feeling of it. When you see a baby, they are unconditional love. And so it's this need within the self to connect with this energy of unconditional love. And so women love to have babies because the first couple years of experiencing that unconditional love with a baby is so pure, and they feel so one with themselves. But we can't keep procreating forever. Like, I mean, you know,
it's not sustainable.
It's not practical, you know. So how can I find this feeling of unconditional love that I experience through my children in myself? Is the question. And I think we were sharing that because Sheena was sharing that she experienced unconditional love for her grandmother, and now she feels a hole within her. And I completely empathize with that. And we just, sort of contemplated on that question of this hole that we have, that we all have, of wanting an external thing to love, for us to love or to be loved. But to actually feel it within, it's the work.
To love is to give, and like I said, the only way to use it is to give it away. And the more we give it away, the more we receive it. And I guess because she didn't have someone to give it away to anymore, that's why she couldn't receive it back. And that's why there's a bit of an emptiness, which I guess is understandable. Comes with any loss. But then there are many ways to love. And I had a question about, you just said something and I wanted to chime in, but I forgot what it was now. Something about what was it? Or something about a way to love, or something about oh well, maybe I'll come back. I lost my train of thought. Vata.
Are you a Vata as well?
Yeah. I'm a sensitive Vata boy. I feel like I've been crying a lot on this poddy recently. It's because I've just allowed myself to feel, And
it's so beautiful.
And doing something like this, it's always very intimate, right? You're talking to someone, you're sharing, and then things open up, and the illusion of the podcast is that no one is listening, no one is watching. It's just you and me in this room. But then when it's out there, everybody, you don't know who is listening to it. And then I was like, oh no. I walked out, I go to class, I teach, and then someone tells me, oh, I listened to your podcast with me. I was like, oh no, that means you heard all that. And I don't even know you, I don't know anything about you, and it's just a stranger, and they know everything about you, and then it's vulnerable, because, you know, maybe they listen to all the previous episodes and they know about me, or they know at least something about me, and I'll just be like, oh, thanks for listening, and I don't know what to say, because you know, it's just weird. I'm not weird in a bad way. It's just like, I mean, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to say. You've heard my whole life story, and I don't know what to respond to that.
It's the fear of judgment. You know, we were coming into this podcast and we were like, oh, I'm feeling a bit nervous. And then you were saying the same thing. I'm feeling a bit nervous too. And I was sitting with it all weekend. I was going, oh wow, what's coming up for me? Are you making me nervous? Are you transmitting your nervousness onto me? Or am I making you nervous? Who's making who nervous is the $1 million question, right? And then I'm like, you know, it's actually good to feel nervous. It's like, why do we have to compartmentalize that emotion as well? It's like, it's good to let it come up and be like, okay, this is an important emotion to feel, or an important feeling to feel. And what I took from it is that we care. Like, I care about, there's a part of me that wants to present my best self forward. But isn't that for everybody as well? You want to present your best self forward, and you want people to experience that of you. So there's that part. And there's also the part of, you are, there's this part of where the judgment, you think, oh my gosh, like everyone.
What's people gonna think?
Exactly. And then I'm like, but if I imagine, and this is, I recently heard someone say this, imagine that everyone listening in are your mother. They're simply unconditional love, and they are here, they're supporting you, they love you. And then you just go out there and you share. And it's like, that really helped me shift my psyche. It was like, okay, then you can step into your best self. And then you can, through your own sharing, heal others as well.
That's why I felt disappointed the first time when I postponed my poddy with York. It was because I wasn't in a good space, and I wanted to be able to be in that good space, to hold space for her. But then again, that's me trying to be my best self in front of the mic. Then people will like me because of it, because I'm like, yeah, I'm fun. I'm happy, right? So I'm like, yeah, I'm able to be charming and everything. But then I created this thing was to be able to be authentic. And if I'm not in a good space, then so be it at that day. And if I want to share it at that point, then I'll share it. And there's no facade. There's no it's not on TV where everything's makeup and everything is yeah, hey, whoa, what's up? It's not curated. It is here, we turn it on. I don't feel so good. Let's talk about it. All right, let's go back to the topic that we're going to talk about. That's why I felt like I should have just done it at that time, and I'm sure York could have held space for me also. So, I'm trying to. I've invited this new energy into my life now, right? Love, and I have an abundance of it now, or rather, I think I have more energy now. I'm able to give more, and I want to keep being this podcast is an outlet, or so it's therapy. We talk, I get it off my chest, and I share and I learn and I receive also, and then that helps me. And then whatever at this moment that we share, whatever is authentic and it resonates to someone, whoever that's listening, while you're running, while you're in your car, while you're walking on your MRT, you're listening to this right now, and you resonate with it, whatever that we say, and it just you know that you're not alone, whatever you're dealing with, that we're all part of the river, we're all drops in the ocean, we're all flowing together. Om Shanti Shanti, right?
Yeah.
So then I shouldn't have not done it, and that's a lesson also. Yeah. And I was telling you also that I did there was one podcast that I did that I felt so fucking unauthentic. I sold out. Never mind. If you don't,
You want to share that, or
I can share a bit about it. It was just like a big brand. We don't leave any names or whatever. So a fitness brand came to me and asked me to do an episode because they were launching a new product, and they wanted me to speak to someone who's actually been on this podcast before, but again, I won't say who. And that podcast that I did was one of the most boring ones because that person didn't open up to me, and it felt very curated. It felt very PR. And after I did it, I was just like, I don't enjoy this. I don't think I want to do this. I don't want to talk to people that are just like influencers. I just want to talk to someone if I actually want to talk to someone. So then I did anyway. Like I figured like, okay, a big brand. I'll just do it, just to build some rapport with them. And they didn't pay me. It was just they gave me some shitty clothes that I'm fucking selling on Carousel. If you want to buy anybody. So I did it, and it was just dumb. It was just, they would just talk. I don't mean to be rude. I'm sure she's a nice person, but it's just that I felt it was just bullshit, and you're not talking to me. And I was trying to ask questions, like genuine questions, and I came in with an open mind, trying to learn what you had to share that day. And it was just product placements and like talking about how great their app was or how great their clothing line is. And I was just like, this is so fucking dumb. Like, why am I listening to this nonsense? This advertisement, this 1 hour long advertisement.
you sold your soul?
I sold it for like a fucking
couple t-shirts.
couple of t-shirts. Yeah, not worth at all my time and all that. And then at the end of it, I was just like, this is dumb. So I did it. I recorded the episode before my surgery, and then I went through my surgery, and then so I edited it during the while I was on MC. And like when we recorded it, there was like the two PR agents sitting nearby, and it was just like they were curating. They would text. I think they would text her to like, okay, mention this at this point, talk about our product, blah blah. And then she would look. She's always looking at her phone, and she would say. So it's all this stuff that you can't see as the listener when you're listening to it. You can't see whatever you're reading off a script or whatever. So then I'm looking at her, and she's reading off her phone. I was like, this is so dumb. This is not what I signed up for. And I was just like, and when it was done, I told the person, I said, I don't think I want to post it. I think it's the quality. I just give the excuse of the quality isn't good. And then they were like, I mean, can we just like publish it? And I told them, like, I'll publish it, but I'll put it out for a month and then I'll remove it. So I popped it out. I didn't post it on social media. Maybe half of the people listening don't even know that it was out there. And then a month later, I removed it, and I was just like, I'm never gonna do this kind of nonsense again. This is my platform. I'm just doing this for fun. I am not trying to earn any money from it. So why am I wasting time to do things that I don't want to do? So if I were to talk to you, if I want to have you on my podcast, it's because I genuinely want to know about you. I want to find out. There's something I want to find out, or I just enjoy talking to you, and just we press record, and then we'll just see what happens. And I love it. And it's 2 hours long, and we talk about whatever. And it's also like we didn't talk about anything like that. It's not like say like some certain people. There's some things I want to talk about. Amber, there's something I want to talk about with her. It's about birth. I talked to John. It's about Ashtanga. There's specific things that I want to talk to people about. Then for sure I will do my research, and I will ask the questions, and I'll be prepared. But then if it's like Edmund or Lee or you, I just like, all right, what's up? How's it going? You got anything going on? What's happening with life? And we flow. Mm-hmm. And that is as authentic as it can be. And this isn't like I said, this isn't a TED Talk. This isn't about, let's share what you know. This is just you and me, and we're just talking. There's no one here, and we're open and we're present. And whether this becomes viral, great. If it doesn't, I had fun, I had fun. We enjoyed it. We get to learn a little bit more about each other. And that's enough already, right? Yeah,
always trust the flow.
Yeah,
that's how I work as well.
Yeah, and if I can say, the way you've run things here, the way you are as a person reflects how Hom Yoga as a studio. And I talked to Sheena, I talked to Edmund, I talked to whoever. We're all friends, right? We're all the teachers. and I talk to my other yoga teacher friends, and I'm always just very grateful to be here. I'm always very grateful that I'm part of the Hom family and that I'm teaching here, and I'm in this space where there's a vacuum. We're doing some aircon maintenance, so don't mind the noise. So I'm always very grateful to be here, and I'm always very grateful that you are always you give us this, you create this space, and you let us just be. You let us just teach whatever we want to teach. You let us express what we want to express, and there is no restriction. And of all things, to allow us to be in yoga, of course, let yogis be yogis. But then when I talk to my other yoga teacher friends at other places, then you find out like there's a bit of restriction. You have to teach a certain way, you have to do a certain thing. You can't do this, you can't do that. Or in this class type, you have to be a certain way. And especially with COVID, there's so many restrictions. Do this, do that. Make sure that you blah, blah, blah. And then I was like, oh, this is so weird. Like, especially as like in this line when you're sharing as a teacher, but then you only can share within this circle, this prison, or no, not prison, this bubble, yes, a bubble, yeah. Right? You can only you can do whatever you want, but only within, from this point to this point, this boundary. Then it's like, that's still restrictive. That's still, you know.
So I was just sharing yesterday with a friend of mine, and actually she also teaches here, but we were talking about, I was saying there's a difference between ethics, morality, and integrity. I think oftentimes we get caught up with ethics. We say this is the ethical thing to do, but ethics entraps us. It surrounds us with judgment. We end up becoming trapped within that certain paradigm of what the ethical thing is. But if we approach something with integrity, we come with it with intention and honesty to ourselves, and with that comes empowerment. So that's the difference, and I think that is really important, because then with integrity comes growth and expansiveness. With ethics comes judgment, entrapment, boxed in, and obviously you can't grow with that. So I think that it's really important to understand the difference between these two words, and to just to look at it within ourselves. And I think that's like for us, you know, in Hom, like going back to that, I think it's really important that teachers are empowered to grow and to expand. Because if the teachers are empowered, then the students will be empowered too. If you have disempowered teachers who aren't given the space to expand and grow within their capability, like what you're going through now, it's off the mat, but it's the yoga practice, then how can your students grow with you? It's impossible. So there's something very, very visceral in the whole process. And also the spoken word. The spoken word has a certain vibration. So as much as I love the online space and how the impact that we can make on a global sense, the in-person, the spoken nature requires there is a certain energetic transmission between the person who's saying it and the person who's receiving it.
I agree 100%. There's a difference between doing an interview face-to-face and doing a Skype interview. I am never going to do that because it's different. There is an exchange of energy that comes. I can see your body language. I can see your expression. You're here. I can witness this. If I do it online, or if there's a medium to it, then there's a disconnect or so.
Exactly. And also, like, you know, when you're in class and now you're going through this humongous shift, like
people sense it on some intrinsic level.
But your lessons that you've learned, that you've just shared so intimately with all of us, are being transmitted in the classroom. And that's the growth that your students are having, even though they don't know what that is. They are changing together with you as well. And I think that's really important. So, that's
something also that you mentioned at this, something that we mentioned earlier about how you said you let teachers be, and just like how you let Navy be, you let him just be, downstairs sitting down. You let him just explore, and it's like that same motherly instinct that you let us, your yoga children, quote unquote, just be and just let us grow in our own way, and you hold space for us, and we are able to express in our authentic way.
Yeah. Definitely.
I like it. I like this.
Yeah, and it's not like there is no feedback. Like, you and I have given each other feedback, or I've received feedback myself for my teaching, and you've received feedback for your teaching, and so on and so forth. So, but the feedback comes with a certain intention of love and integrity to telling my own truth. I can share with you, I'm not going to say to you, Aaron, you need to be doing this, because that's, again, disempowering, because I'm imposing what I think you should do in the class, but instead I could approach it in a different way, again, language. So I felt in class, when in this section of the class, I just felt like I couldn't quite hear you. I wanted to hear what you had to say, but I couldn't quite hear you. So maybe something to think about. And that gives you a chance to think about it and reflect on me, because I'm sharing with you my experience. It's not something that I think you should do. And then that gives you a chance to grow. So it's not like we're here and we're all just letting each other do whatever we want to do. There is that growth, but it's a very beautiful organic growth, it's not imposed, that comes from within. It's a natural organic growth for the teacher and also for the being, right?
Right.
And then through that, I get the tremendous opportunity to learn and grow with all of you as well. So that's my, I get the feedback back, so it's quite a beautiful symbiotic process.
Well, I mean, this place is a representation of who you are as a person, and you as a mother, and as someone who respects the process of like letting things play out naturally, even down to the design or the sustainable stuff that we have. It's all about maintaining that natural order of things, letting people be, letting people grow, and you just hold space for it. So I guess on behalf of everybody here, thank you for...
You're very welcome.
Yeah.
And thank you.
I think we can wrap it up. My battery's also dying so I guess it's a sign. Any final words? Any final words to close this off, and to, I guess, to the people who are listening in podcast land, the mostly yogis?
Well, thank you very much for listening in and sharing your energy as well with us as you listen in. And yes, please come along and talk to me and Aaron, and would love to hear your thoughts and get some insights and grow as well together with all of you. So thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you for listening. Thank you for being here as well and chatting with me and holding space for me. Okay. And with that, we end this episode. The best episode ever.
Wow. That was amazing.
Oh my god. Thank you for listening. Like I said, I mean, I don't what else I don't know what to say. I don't know how to close off this episode. Of course I've heard the episode while editing it, and I hear it, and I hear myself talking again. It's weird, It's always weird to share. I don't know who's listening. I don't know what the point of all this is sometimes. But I don't have anything profound to say. I don't have anything. I mean, I recorded this a week ago. Today's Monday. Yeah, a week ago. We did this a week ago. Nothing much has changed, but also everything has changed. Like, I feel different. I feel better. But then, this kind of thing doesn't just, you don't get better overnight. But every day I just feel better because, you let things go and you surrender, like I was saying, you just trust that you're on the right path. You trust that the ocean is taking you, it's flowing where you need to go. And I close my eyes and I pray. So, to anybody who is going through whatever they're going through, right? Life beats you down. Just know that you're on the right path. You are where you're supposed to be, and just trust. Have faith and put in the work. Like, an analogy that I just suddenly thought of. Say you're in a boat and you're sailing, right? If you surrender completely, you're just lying on the boat. You're not doing anything, and the waves will just push you left and right, and you just go to wherever the waves take you, or wherever the winds take you. But you need to still be at the mercy of the waves and the wind and the universe, let's call it that. But you also still have to put in the work. You still have to row. You still have to steer the boat somewhere, The waves might push you against where you want to go, but then you don't resist. You take a longer route, but you still have to put in the work. You still have to put in your karma. Yeah. Thank you for listening again. I enjoy doing this, as always. I enjoy learning from people. I enjoy sharing the stories of them, and I enjoy just having a connection, having a conversation with people. If you like what you hear, share it with your friends, repost this on IG, tag me. I'll repost it as well. Show your support. If you enjoy the podcast, donate to the coffee page. The link is in the description. Let me know if you have any questions. Feel free to reach out to me, reach out to Malvina or anybody on the podcast if you ever listen to them and you want to find out more. Mel is very open to people talking to her, so like don't be intimidated. If you see her, if you want to ask her something about the podcast, you want to make fun of Blair and his boat story, feel free to. I guess you can speak to me as well. I've always been quite apprehensive with people coming up to me and telling me that they listen to it, especially when it's like an episode like this where it's like, it's very vulnerable, and then a stranger comes up to me and says, I've listened to the whole thing. I don't know how to react. I'll just nod and I just like thank them for listening, but I honestly don't know what to say. But if you have a question, I'll answer it. Oh man, what else? I think that's it. Okay, have a good day, have a good life. See you in class. Thanks for listening. Okay, bye.